Hello, good morning everyone. I am John Cornelius M. Lasarte, your reporter for today, and today we are going to deal with the use of statistics in outcomes assessment. Our lesson objectives for today is to revisit important statistical terms and concepts, explore statistical methods, and lastly, apply statistics in assessment. So before anything else, let's have a review. What are the ways on how assessment help teaching and learning process? And another one, how do you define statistics? For your answers, please comment on the chat box section of the Google Meet. After you are done answering the question, now let us see your answers. So what are the ways on how assessment help teaching and learning process? So assessment help to test whether we have achieved or attained the expected student learning outcomes. And other than that, it helps us to tell whether the teaching strategies used by the teachers were effective, thus enabling for teaching and learning process to further develop and improve. The next one is, how do you define statistics? It is a scientific discipline and a branch of mathematics that deals with the collection, organization, presentation, and interpretation of data. We have two general types of statistical analysis. So, if we define it as use methods to summarize a collection of data by describing what is observed using numbers of graphs that is appropriate for communicating results of inquiry and experiment and surveys. What do you think is it? Is it descriptive or inferential statistics? If your answer is descriptive, then you are correct. But on the other hand, inferential statistics is also known as predictive statistics that use methods to draw patterns and collect data and makes conclusions, predictions, or forecasts about population or process that is being studied. Now, the conclusions produced from inferential statistics comes in the form of hypothesis testing, or answering yes or no question, estimation or estimating numerical characteristics of data, correlation which describes relation among data, hypothesis analysis or modeling relationship among data, then predicting, forecasting, or estimating observation on the population under the study, and lastly, extrapolation and interpolation of time series data or spatial data. Now we have exemplification of statistics through relevant characteristics. So this is just like a review since we have gone through the statistics subject. So first, we have here statistical inference is inductive from samples to dimensions of larger group of a total population. Like for example, if we have 100 first-year students, we can represent, and on those in 100 students, we have 80 girls while the remaining are 20 boys. So we can represent it as 8 out of 10 students in first year are girls. So that's what is implied in the first characteristic. So correlation does not imply causation. So correlation is about the relationship of variable. It doesn't mean that it is connected or it is related, but it doesn't exactly means that the first variable is the cause that affects is a direct cause that affects the second variable. Just correlation implies only relationship and does not imply causation. Number 3, sampling is used to ensure interference and conclusion can be extended to population. So just like in conducting a study, if there is a large number of people involved in a population, we get sample from that group, and when we interpret the data or the information or the result of the study, we can extend the whole essence of the study as reflected to the whole population. So for number 4, misuse of statistics can cause either error in description or interpretation of data. That is why it is very important to be careful in handling statistical treatment of data, especially for those conducting study, because if you have mistake in computing statistical data, it will greatly impact the result of your study. It can become invalid. And lastly, we have statistical skills and statistical literacy are needed to produce accurate skills. So meaning to say, we need an authentic statistician to help us fully produce an accurate statistical result out from a study. Now, we have here the question, what is the significance of statistical methods in assessing learning outcomes? So, statistics is useful in teaching and learning process along several research-based inquiries. In connection with this, we have here the statistical methods. First, we have the experimental studies. Or experimental studies investigates causes in addition to drawing conclusions on the effect of change in the variables. It studies experimental group and compare it to a control group to find the difference, which is called the variance. Now, the application of it is like the technology integration in the classroom. We try to find out whether the integrating technology in the classroom can enhance the level or the outcomes of the teaching and learning process compared to those of the traditional ones. The next one is we have inferential studies. In inferential studies, the data gathered are correlation between interventions or predictors, and the results are derived from a single group are investigated. So here, we investigate the relationship of variables within a single group, unlike to the experimental studies which has its control group and its experimental group. Now we have here the steps in statistical inquiries. The first one is planning the research-based inquiry around size, hypothesis, variability, subject, and etc. The next one is designing the experiment by blocking reduced error, random assignment for unbiased estimates, and mapping procedures, like experimental protocols. The third one is implementation and analysis of data. The fourth one is the further examination and secondary analysis of the data. And last one is the documentation and presentation of the results of the study. Now, it's icebreaker time! Now we are going to have an activity or a simple game. We have here, based from your previous knowledge, analyze the following terms carefully and try to draw 3-column table in order to classify words into data analysis, level of measurement, or quantifying tools. We have 3 words for quantifying tools, 4 words for level of measurement, and also 4 words for data analysis. So, we have here the words. Please try to create a 3-column table for you to be able to classify it systematically And please send the picture of your answer to my personal message on the Facebook account. You have 3 minutes to answer this icebreaker challenge. So, the time starts now. Good luck! Only 1 minute left. Please finalize your answer and send it to my Facebook account through personal message. Thank you. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Now, let us have the final answers for this icebreaker challenge. So, these terms we have all encountered it in studying statistics. So, under the first one, for data analysis column, we have conceptualization. We also have indicators, dimension, and specification. For the levels of measurement, we have nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. And for the last, which is quantification tool, we have index, scales, and typologies. So, let us go on to see what does these words mean and how could we, or how it is related to use of statistics in assessment. First, we have here the conceptualization. In teaching concepts about abstract ideas, teachers communicate idea image, and not the physical or social realities of a phenomena. That means that everything or situation in a classroom that we can study can be conceptualized and represented. Now, in this conceptualization, we deal with different phenomena, and we have 3 classes of phenomena. The first one is the direct observables, which is like colors of dress or heat of fire. While the indirect observables, for the second one, is like the idea of female observed through the signs of person's gender. And last, the constructions or creations we form in the mind resulting from observations like IQ, patriotic love, religion's fanatism, where we understand the real meaning of it, relate to it, and make predictions about it. Next, we have here the indicator. It is the sign of presence of concept or variable under the study that is measured through level of intensity. Like for example, if a teacher wish to study the effects of the factors that affects the enthusiasm for learning of the students, we can measure the level of enthusiasm for learning of the students through the indicator, which is measured through level of intensity. We have sets of indicators or criterias that can be measured whether the respondents strongly agree about the statement, or agree or disagree, or strongly disagree. Next, we have a specific aspect of concept combined into groups or subgroups, which can be assigned with indicators, is called the dimension. And another one is the specialization, which the process of clarifying that can be done through categorization. So this statistical concepts or terminologies helps us to analyze data. So let us further deal with specialization. Under specification, we have the progression of meaning. The first one is conceptualization, which deals with the process to specify what we mean. Next is the nominal definition. We're assigned to a term, not the reality. And under operational definition, where we specify how a concept is measured. And lastly, we can produce the real definition, which is a better clarified status of a real thing. So the next statistical concept is we have the level of measurement, wherein we are very familiar with. The first one is the nominal, wherein it is used for the variables with different attributes. Like for example, we have gender, birthplace, college major, and etc. The next one is ordinal, which is used in describing a variable with attributes that can be in a rank ordered along the same dimension. Like for example, socioeconomic status, which can be high, medium, or low. The next one is the interval measure, which describes variable whose attributes are rank ordered and have equal distances between adjacent attributes. Like for example, the Fahrenheit temperature scale. And the last one, we have ratio, wherein it is used in describing variables with attributes that have all qualities of nominal, ordinal, interval, and is based on a true 0 point. Like for example, length of residence and number of organizations. These measurements helps us to analyze data. However, there are some instances that doesn't guarantee the reliability of result. Like for the needs of revision of assessment tests to adapt in the new trends of educational assessment. In the third column of our icebreaker challenge, we had the quantification tools such as index, scales, and typologies, wherein it is useful in aiding on quantifying learning inputs through statistical techniques. In index, the score for individual attributes are constructed, while the scores are assigned to patterns of ideas in scales. And in typologies, it is the classification of observation in terms of attributes on two or more variables. Now we have here a question. With the help of computer analysis, data is as easy as one click of your finger. But what if the data is not numerical? Remember the experience of using statistical tools like SPSS. Instead of typing male or female, we assigned a numerical value on it, which is 1 for male, 2 for female. And that is how we treat the variables or data that is not in numerical form. So we have now the quantification techniques used in statistics. We have here univariate analysis, bivariate analysis, and multivariate analysis. In connection with these three, we also have other statistical methods such as we have parametric test of significance, chi-square, path analysis, time series analysis, factor analysis, and analysis of variance or ANOVA. Let us deal with this. First, we have univariate analysis. In univariate analysis, it is an analysis of single variable for the purpose of description. Like for example, or it is applied in attendance. While on the other hand, the analysis between two variables is called the bivariate analysis. Like for example, we have to conduct a survey and we have two different questions. Do you agree that mathematical application enhance learning? You need to rate it strongly agree or disagree or strongly disagree. Another question is that should mathematical education propose training program to aid students strengthen their knowledge and skills in terms of making use of it? You need to rate it again from strongly agree up to strongly disagree. Now, after analyzing the result of it, we need to determine the relationship of these two variables to each other, and this is where bivariate analysis comes or takes into place. It will help us analyze this kind of data. Under bivariate analysis, we have statistical methods such as parametric test of significance, wherein this test refers to the likelihood that the relationship between variables is significant enough to be meaningful. That means this assumes that there is a significant relationship between two variables. While on the other hand, the test based on null hypothesis and has assumption that there is no significant relationship between two variables is called the chi-square test, which is the opposite of the parametric test of significance. After univariate analysis and bivariate analysis, we now have the multivariate techniques, or which is under the multivariate analysis. It is the analysis of several variables. So if we have more than two variables, we are going to deal with it through multivariate analysis and multivariate techniques. We have here the path analysis. In path analysis, causal model of understanding relationship among many variables in form of graphic illustration which assumes that the values of one variable is used by another. So let us have an example to visualize this path analysis. So according to this diagram or illustrations, we have here the teacher, strategies, teaching, learners, and learning outcomes. So based from the direction of the arrows, each variable has something to do with each other. So teacher affects strategies or uses strategies in teaching, and teaching is used for the learners to learn and produce the learning outcomes. Teachers need a strong relationship with the students in order to produce a good learning outcome. Learners contributes to the concept of developing strategies for the teaching purpose. or the teaching process. And at the same time, learning outcomes influence the teaching because through assessment, we can help it to ensure or to test whether the teaching strategies is effective, and based from that result, we can be able to improve the teaching process or the teaching and learning process for the betterment of the learning outcomes. Now, in this path analysis, and we need multivariate analysis in order to analyze this kind of data. So another example of multivariate technique, we have here the time series analysis. This represents changes in one or more variable over time. Like for example, we are monitoring or studying the students based from a certain strategy that we apply in teaching learning process across the 4 periods of the school year. We have to use time series analysis. And for the factor analysis, it is used to discover patterns among variations in value of several factors. So it comes handy in analyzing factors involved in the study. And last, we have here the analysis of variance, or what we also call ANOVA. This case under the study are combining groups representing independent variable, and the extent to which group differs from one another is analyzed in relation to some dependent variable. In dealing with this multivariate strategy, we can seek the aid of computer or computer software like SPSS to conduct the t-test or the test of means for analyzing the data related to this. And we have the two types of ANOVA. We have the one-way ANOVA that is useful in the problems like the test of low level and middle level of socioeconomic status and access to learning resources and opportunities. While the two-way ANOVA can be used to test of low level and middle level of socioeconomic status associated with the access to learning resources and opportunities and the student's academic performance. So as you can see, in one-way ANOVA, we have here the one dependent variable and one independent variable, while in the two-way ANOVA, we deal with more than the dependent and independent variable. It is now the time to apply your learning in this activity. So, hi, I am Teacher K and I need your help in classroom situation. Can you help me identify all the possible statistical methods that can be applied in my students' learning? In this activity, you are going to send your answers through chat in my personal account through sending a personal message, and let us analyze here the situation. It has been noted that the students are having some problems that cause absenteeism. Students also have different socioeconomic background that affects their accessibility to learning resource and opportunity that affects their academic performance in the same manner as the parent involvement and enthusiasm for learning. The learning outcomes are noted and observed through the 4 quarters of the school year. How could we use statistical methods in assessing the outcomes? So you are going to list as many as you can the statistical methods that can be applied in this problem setting. And after listing, you are going to explain why you have chosen this and how are you going to apply it in this kind of situation. So you can send the answers to me after the class so that you can have more time on dealing with this problem. So you can take a screenshot of it so that we can proceed on summing up our lesson. So in today's lesson, we have reviewed about the concepts of statistics, wherein the concepts and the meanings of the terminologies of statistics that we've been recalled is very useful in studying the school environment or the teaching learning process and the things or variables that involves in education. Through the use of statistical methodologies and strategies, we can be able to assess learning and help us to formulate a better teaching and learning process. So, that's all for today. Thank you for listening and have a great day.